Clyde soon followed his older brother Buck into a life of petty crime. Property theft here and there, dealing in the stolen bicycle parts business, and graduating to auto theft.
Clyde, contrary to what his school record might suggest, was a very bright and resourceful boy, but he never demonstrated any particular interest in anything until his older sister Nell married a professional musician who often let Clyde stay with them. Clyde learned to sing, play saxophone and guitar, and fell so deeply in love with music that he began to imagine himself finding fame and fortune as a performer. Now, unlike Clyde, Bonnie excelled in school, winning praise from her teachers. Popular, she had a spirited personality that also included a fierce temper, and was not above. Bonnie also demonstrated considerable artistic talents: acting, singing, dancing, and writing,
immortalizing his love for them with tattoos of their names.
It was one of these girls who indirectly put him in the criminal spotlight. Clyde had rented a car for half a day so that he could visit an old girlfriend who had moved. Even though he knew she disapproved him, he invited the girl's mother to come along, and she accepted. When the reunion with his former flame stretched to 2 days, well beyond the half-day rental, the rental company contacted the police, who tracked him down. Instead of explaining the rather innocent situation to the police, Clyde, aware of his record as a petty thief, hid from the police when they arrived, thus implicating himself as some sort of criminal. Clyde was ultimately discovered and brought in by the police. The owners of the rental car company, when they heard Clyde's story, decided to drop the charges in the name of teen romance. The police department was less impressed with Clyde's story, but with no reason to hold him any longer, he was released. From that day on, he was on the department's list of usual suspects, and frequently picked up and brought into police headquarters. Not exactly living the life of a married woman. Bonnie, not yet 18 years old, was left on her own, lonely much of the time. Briefly kept a journal, beginning in 1928.
I wish to tell you that I have a Roman husband with a Roman mind. We are separated for the third and last time.
Rather than being brought in on the generic charge of suspicion, only to be released a few hours later. Instead, hours stretched into days, and days into weeks. Fearing what he suspected his proper, conservative mother's reaction to the flashy Bonnie would be, Clyde had desperately kept them apart, not bringing Bonnie over to meet his family. But Bonnie, never one to miss a chance for drama, decided that now, in this anxious time, their older son Buck already serving time, and Clyde locked up indefinitely, would be the best opportunity to present herself to the Barrows. Clyde's instincts were often dead on, and while the conservative Cumie was not particularly impressed with the flashy, heavily made-up Bonnie at first, she could tell that her devotion was genuine. Clyde's sisters were slightly more open to Bonnie, because if nothing else, she looked like a movie star and had her undeniable, if sassy, charm.
Like other young minor offenders, according to protocol, he would probably be assigned to a relatively safe section of the prison and given a menial job within the walls rather than a back and spirit-breaking job out in the field.
Nobody knows why this protocol was not followed in Clyde's case, but somehow Clyde was assigned to the toughest section of the prison. His time was spent with the worst of the worst criminals. He was forced to do hard labor under the watchful eyes of sadistic guards. And these guards frequently subjected prisoners to vicious punishments that bordered on torture. If the guards were not bad enough, certain particularly tough prisoners were given positions as tenders, charged with keeping their fellow inmates in line using whatever methods they found useful. The still boyish Clyde attracted the attention of one tender, the thuggish lifer Ed Crowder, who targeted and sexually assaulted him constantly for nearly a year. Unable to take it any longer, Clyde was able to sneak in a length of lead pipe. When Crowder followed him into the showers, as was his routine, Clyde swung around and fractured his skull, killing him instantly. Bonnie, not yet 18 years old, was left on her own. Another lifer, well aware of Clyde's situation, took responsibility for the attack. It would not be the last time Clyde killed another man, but it was the only time that the crime was premeditated. However, even with Crowder out of the way, Clyde was desperate and miserable in prison. He came to the same conclusion that a number of other prisoners had come to. He would self-mutilate in order to get an infirmary stay and eventually a lighter workload. Now, either on his own or with the help of another prisoner, Clyde chopped off his big toe and the toe next to it, forever altering his balance and the way he walked. Of all things, this drastic measure would soon be unnecessary, thanks to the persistent efforts of his mother, who had been campaigning for leniency in her son's case. He was pardoned and released from prison 2 weeks later. The epitaph on Clyde's grave reads, "Gone, but not forgotten. I'm Noah Forrest."